Hey there, before we dive in, a quick note. This podcast is an experiment in AI. Both the co-hosts and the entire conversation you're about to hear are generated by AI technology based on content and ideas owned by Danny Brown. So sit back, relax, and enjoy this unique AI-powered experience.
Hey everyone, welcome back. Ready to dive in. Today we're tackling something, well, it can feel kind of mysterious: podcast metrics.
Yeah, numbers, data, it can seem a bit overwhelming for some people.
Right. Like, we hear about downloads, listens, followers. But what do they all really tell us? And more importantly, should we even care?
That's what we're here to find out. We're going to break it all down, make it clear as day.
Music to my ears. Now, a bunch of our sources mentioned the IAB, that's the Interactive Advertising Bureau. I'll be honest, I didn't really get what they had to do with podcasts at first. Did you?
So the IAB, they're kind of like the rule setters, you know? They've laid down these standards for how we measure a podcast's success. And honestly, it's for the best. Like, not all downloads are actually listens.
Hold on, what? How's that even possible?
Think about it. You might accidentally download something, or your app glitches and download the whole bunch of episodes you don't even want, right?
Oh, true. That's happened to me.
Exactly. So the IAB decided that for a download to count, to be certified, it has to reflect some actual listening. Someone's got to hit play for at least a minute, or at least download enough of the file for us to assume they listened that long. It just makes the data much more reliable.
Ah, that makes a lot more sense. So if you're a podcaster who switches to an IAB certified host, you might actually see your download numbers drop.
Yep. And that can be scary, right?
Totally. But it doesn't mean you've lost listeners, just that the numbers are more honest now.
Precisely. Transparency is key.
Okay, so we're getting a clearer picture of downloads, but at the end of the day, it's about whether people actually listen to the content, right? Engage with it.
You got it. Downloads are just the first step.
So how do we figure out the listening part? Our sources talked about how different platforms like Spotify and Apple Podcasts track this differently.
Yeah, it can get a little confusing. So Spotify, they use starts for any time someone hits play. Like, even just a second counts as a start. But for it to be a stream, which aligns with those IAB standards, you need at least a minute of listening.
Makes sense. So what about Apple Podcasts?
They use plays, which is similar to starts on Spotify, anything over 0 seconds. But then they have this other metric, the engaged listener. And that's where it gets really interesting.
Engaged listeners. Tell me more. That sounds promising.
Right. So an engaged listener on Apple Podcasts has listened for at least 20 minutes or 40% of the episode, whichever is less.
Wow. That's a pretty good chunk of the episode. So if a podcast has a lot of those engaged listeners, that's a good sign for, potential listeners.
Absolutely. Think of it this way. Have you ever picked up a book and the pages are all dog-eared, maybe even underlined? That usually means it's a good read, right? Someone was engaged.
Oh, yeah, for sure. I totally see the connection. So basically, high engagement means other people are hooked. So we probably will be too.
Exactly. Word of mouth, but in data form.
I love it. All right, so we've covered downloads, we've tackled listens, but there's still one more piece to this puzzle. Followers. It's like the loyal subscribers of the podcasting world, right?
Right on. Followers are the ones who subscribe, often have that auto download set up. They're your ride or dies right there waiting for your new episode to drop.
Exactly. They're the ones leaving those excited comments, sharing it with their friends, really boosting the show's visibility.
Absolutely. And for you as a listener, a healthy, active follower base is a great sign. It means there's a community, people to chat about the episodes with. Often means the creator's really invested too, putting out quality stuff consistently.
That's such a good point. It shows a level of commitment. Okay, wow, we really unpacked that. We went from a jumble of jargon to actually understanding what those numbers mean. Downloads, listens, followers, they all tell a piece of the story.
And the coolest part is, now that you know this, it can totally change how you find and connect with podcasts.
Totally. Like, imagine looking at those metrics before you even hit play. It's like a sneak peek into what other listeners think.
Exactly. So the next time you're browsing for a new podcast, see what those numbers tell you. You might just discover your next favorite show based on the data. And hey, who knows, maybe this inspires you to start your own podcast and build your own community.
Now that's what I call food for thought. Thanks for joining us on this deep dive, everyone. Until next time.